Tonight at 10, the Prime Minister checks on measures to resettle Syrian refugees in Canada and calls upon world governments to open their arms to receiving more. The State Minister for Media Affairs and Government spokesperson says the war against terrorism is ideological and media war, adding Jordan has a strategic plan to address it. And the Iraqi army declares its first major victory over Daesh terrorists in Ramadi, the last stronghold of the terrorists in the western city. Good evening and welcome to the 10 o'clock news. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour visited a center set up by Canadian Embassy in Amman to resettle Syrian refugees in Canada in cooperation with international organizations and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. Mansour praised the efforts of the Canadian government to receive Syrian refugees and called upon world government to open their arms to receiving more refugees. He said Jordan will continue to open border policy and is proud of its humanitarian role towards the refugees, noting that national security will remain above all considerations. Mansour was also briefed on measures taken to select the Syrian refugees from camps and host communities of those refugees in the kingdom in order to resettle them in Canada. The number of Syrian refugees who have been resettled from Jordan in Canada currently stands at 1,000. The Canadian government has recently announced that it will host 25,000 refugees from Jordan, Lebanon and Turkey. A total of 100 new Syrian refugees from various age groups entered into the kingdom through various crossing points during the last 24 hours. Border guards provided the refugees with the necessary aid before transferring them to the refugee camps. The Jordanian Royal Medical Services personnel administered first aid to refugee patients through their medical centers at the borders. The Prime Minister met with Director General and Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development, AFASD, Abdul Latif Al-Hamad. Mansour voiced thanks and appreciation for the AFASD's continued support to Jordan's development efforts. Jordan, he added, is interested in increasing cooperation with the fund and enhancing partnerships that dates back to 1975, during which the fund financed development projects in the kingdom worth $2 billion. Al-Hamad said the AFSD was ready to support Jordan's developmental efforts and address the challenges facing the kingdom. Minister of Planning and International Cooperation Imad Fakhoury said the government signed with the fund 2 soft loans and 1 grant agreements worth $70.6 million. A total of $1 million will go to the Jordan Meteorological Department to set up a weather watch radar to improve the department's weather forecast accuracy. The Petra district in southern Jordan will also receive $20 million through a soft loan to enhance the region's infrastructure. An amount of $50 million will be used to support small and medium enterprises to further develop this key sector of the economy and generate more employment opportunities. The Premier received Palestinian Chief Justice Mahmoud al-Habbash on a visit aimed at imparting Jordanian expertise to the Palestinian Religious Department. Mansour said Jordan and Palestine enjoy historic and deep-rooted relations, and the kingdom is ready to provide the Palestinians with their needs of expertise in all fields. Al-Habbash said there are plans to reformulate the religious judiciary system in Palestine and expressed desire to benefit from Jordanian legislation to improve the Palestinian judiciary system. Mansour received report on recommendations of the National Center for Human Rights for 2014. Mansour received the report from Government Coordinator for Human Rights Basil Tarawne, who heads a committee that was formed by the Prime Minister to examine recommendations of the NCHR. The report highlighted recommendations that could be implemented, and those are part of the government's efforts, plans and future programs. The report focused on issues pertaining to civil and political rights, freedom of expression, the press, as well as legal, economic, social and cultural rights. Tarawne reviewed measures taken to implement recommendations of the NCHR. The King's Advisor for Military Affairs and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mash'al Mohammed Al-Zibin, returned to Amman following a brief visit to Egypt. General Al-Zibin attended with Egyptian Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief, Minister of Defense and Military Production, General Sidqi Subhi, the Aqaba 2015 joint military drill that was performed by elite military units from the armed forces of both countries. The drill, which simulated regional threats, aimed at boosting partnership and military cooperation to ensure security and stability in the region. State Minister for Media Affairs and Government spokesperson Mohammed Al-Momini said that the war against terrorism and extremism is ideological and media war, in addition to it being a military and a security war. In an interview with Amin FM, the radio station of the Public Security Department, Momini stressed the importance of activating the role of the media in highlighting issues of concern to the country and its citizens. Jordan, the minister added, has an integrated strategic plan to address terrorism, including the media plan. He also pointed to the government strategy to highlight principles of Islam in face of extremist ideologies. State Minister for Media Affairs and Government spokesperson Mohammed Al-Momini said that progress made with regard to Jordan's nuclear program, despite regional circumstances, reflects the stability and strength of the Jordanian state. At a meeting organized by the Jordan Atomic Energy Commission, Momini said that the success of implementing the nuclear reactor project for research and training at the Jordan University of Science and Technology is a strategic interest. On nuclear safety, the minister said that Jordan is keen to meet international safety standards at the reactor, which will have qualified Jordanian cadres. Chairman of the Jordan Atomic Energy Agency, Khal reviewed progress made on Jordan's nuclear program. He said the cost of the reactor stand at 110 million dinars, 60 million of which was paid by South Korea in the form of soft loan, adding that the rest will be covered by the Jordanian government. Haaretz Daily reported the Housing and Construction Ministry contracted with an urban planner to build 3,200 settlements in E1 near the illegal settlement of Ma'ale Adumim in East Jerusalem. It added the move came a year after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cancelled a similar plan for the neighborhood after it stirred up international criticism. The new settlements would cut off the northern part of the West Bank from its southern half, making it very difficult for a prospective Palestinian state to have territorial contiguity. It revealed the information comes from documents given to Peace Now based on a Freedom of Information Act request the organization made. E1, E stands for East, is a 12 square kilometer site on the western side of Ma'ale Adumim, a suburb of Jerusalem in the West Bank, east of the capital. The plan also includes building thousands of housing units, commercial spaces and hotels. Iraq flew its flag above the main government complex in the western city of Ramadi, marking its military's first major victory over Daesh. Soldiers were shown on state television celebrating the victory with gunshots and their automatic weapons held in the air. A spokesman for a US-led coalition backing Iraqi forces said the clearance of the government center is a significant accomplishment and is a result of many months of hard work. He said the coalition had provided more than 630 airstrikes in the area over the past 6 months, as well as training, advice and equipment to the army, counter-terrorism forces and police. Security officials said the forces still need to clear some pockets of insurgents in the city and its outskirts. At least 32 people were killed and 90 wounded in the 2 bomb explosions in the Syrian city of Homs. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the blast, one from a car bomb and another from a suicide attack, struck the Zahra district in the middle of the city. It was the second major attack in the city since a ceasefire deal took effect earlier this month, paving the way for the government to take over the last rebel-controlled area of Homs. Under the Homs ceasefire deal, At least 700 insurgent fighters and members of their families left the last rebel-controlled area of the city, Al-Wa'ad district. The Russian Defense Ministry said Russia's air forces carried out 164 sorties in Syria in the past 3 days, hitting 556 targets. The United States and its allies also conducted 37 strikes against Daesh in Syria and Iraq, including a burst of airstrikes against the militant group near the Syrian city of Manbij. The Combined Joint Task Force said the 11 airstrikes near Manbij in Syria hit 7 Daesh tactical units, as well as a building used by the group, among other targets. 5 other strikes hit near Hasaka, Al-Riqqa and Mar'a. In Iraq, 21 strikes near 8 cities, including 3 near Ramadi city. The coalition strikes there hit 2 Daesh tactical units, wounded 12 of the group's fighters, and destroyed 2 of the group's buildings, among other targets. Britons need a complete rethink of its flood defences after towns, cities and countryside across the northern England were inundated when rivers broke their banks in recent days. Hundreds of soldiers have been deployed to evacuate residents and help emergency services. Local authorities said around 500 properties were flooded in the historic city of York and 2,000 homes and 400 businesses in Leeds. More in this report.
It's the worst flooding in 70 years. The deluge in northern England is prompting new talk on flood defences in Parliament. Prime Minister David Cameron, on a visit to the flooded historic city of York, says the government has already spent £100 million on flood defences here, but now they're planning to spend almost 3 times as much.
Well, obviously, we have to look at what's happened in terms of the flooding, where the flood defences have worked, and we have to look at the cases where they haven't worked, where they haven't been high enough, and see whether there's more that we can do.
Rescue crews have been working around the clock. Some 63 flood warnings have been issued. 9 of those are severe, indicating a danger to life. Hundreds of residents have been evacuated.
To be flooded is a terrible experience anyway, and it's even more terrible when it happens at Christmas or New Year, a time when people are meant to be at home with their families and celebrating.
Up to a month's worth of rain has fallen in recent days already, and the crisis is far from over. Forecasters say more rain is coming.
Meadowlark Lemon, a skilled athlete and basketball court jester who delighted audiences around the world as a star attraction of the Harlem Globetrotters for some 25 years, died at the age of 83. Lemon was the undisputed master of the long-range hook shot, rubber band ball and other crowd-pleasing tricks during the years he wore the white and blue uniform. The team's website said he played in 7,500 consecutive games, the equivalent of more than 92 NBA seasons. And Barcelona forward Lionel Messi was named the best player of the year at the Globe Soccer Awards in Dubai. The 28-year-old Argentine international, who is a 4-time World Player of the Year and has been shortlisted for the 2015 Ballon d'Or, helped to inspire his team to the Champions League, La Liga and Kings Cup treble despite losing 2 months to injury.
Hola, buenas noches. Bueno, la verdad que feliz, obviamente siempre lindo recibir este reconocimiento. Si bien digo que lo importante siempre son los colectivos y el...
And finally, relatively cold conditions continue for the rest of tonight in all regions, with southeasterly moderate winds. Frost formation is also expected in the hilly areas, the Badia and the northern Jordan Valley. Similar conditions continue across the kingdom tomorrow, with southeasterly moderate winds stirring dust in the Badia region. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect fair conditions tomorrow, with northerly moderate winds and slightly high seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to close here, our top stories once again. The Prime Minister checks on measures to resettle Syrian refugees in Canada and calls upon world governments to open their arms to receiving more. The State Minister for Media Affairs and Government spokesperson says the war against terrorism is ideological and media war, adding Jordan has a strategic plan to address it. And the Iraqi army declares its first major victory over Daesh terrorists in Ramadi, the last stronghold of the terrorists in the western city. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Balkar. Thank you for watching and have a good night.